Good afternoon, everyone. This is Brad Smith from Haley Marketing Group. Thank you so much for joining us on today's Lunch with Haley. I'm going to be leading the webinar today, and we're going to be talking about social relevance and how social media is really changing the way that business is done, both in business in general and for staffing and recruiting firms. So let's dig right in. Today's agenda, hopefully we're going to cover some interesting topics for everyone. We're going to share some great tips for you. So hopefully at the end of the webinar you'll leave with some very actionable items that you can take back to your firm. So we're going to start off by talking about social relevance and really what social relevance means. I think we all have a firm grasp of what social media is, and social relevance digs into the importance of social media in a business sense. We're going to look at how social media has changed consumer habits and how social media is affecting buying and purchasing decisions. We'll look at why a staffing firm should really care about all of this. We'll talk a little bit about what the heck you really need to be doing. Some people have some misconceptions about social media and what they should be doing. We're going to cover those. We're going to talk about some pros, cons, and give you a good foundation. We're going to look at a crash course in a concept called social sharing, and finally I'm hoping to leave a bunch of time at the end for questions and answers. So throughout the presentation, please feel free to use that box in the right-hand side to ask your questions. We'll try to answer some of those throughout the presentation, and we'll also leave time at the end for those questions. So please don't be shy. There's no silly questions. Ask anything that you'd like, and we'll try to give you a great answer. All right, so to kick things off, social relevance. I liken it to being in high school again. So we've all gone through high school. We know that it's a popularity contest. It's making friends with the right people. It's sitting at the right lunch table. It's talking about the right things. It's participating in the right sports. It's very similar to social media. And really, it's about connecting with the right people and making sure that you're in the cool kids group, if you will. So when we talk about social media, what we're really looking at is what's your social circle like? Who are you connected with? How many friends do you have? And maybe even more importantly, how relevant are your friends? Okay, so you might have 1,000 friends or 1,000 fans on your Facebook page, but if they aren't relevant, if they aren't good targets for you, they're not doing much good. They're not helping lend to your social relevance. So you want to make sure that you're connecting with the right people. You want to make sure that you're connecting with influencers in social media and influences in your industry and business sector, and make sure that you continue to build that pipeline of new quality connections. Digging a little deeper, we're also looking at how many people interact with you. I mentioned having 1,000 followers on your Facebook page, and that's great. That's a great goal to shoot for. But an even better goal is getting those people to actually interact with you. The more interaction you have in your social media profiles and your accounts, the more relevant you are in the eyes of not only the social media sites and your target audience, but also in the eyes of the search engines, and we'll get to that in a little bit. Social relevance is also determined by how many people are redistributing your content. So the more content that you get redistributed, the more people that are retweeting your information or sharing your articles or sharing your status updates or commenting on your status updates, the more relevant you are socially. Are people talking about your business? Are they leaving reviews on Yelp? Are they leaving reviews on Yahoo? Are they talking to their friends on Facebook about your company? That all goes into your social relevance factor. And last but not least, do my friends like you? And Google recently made some changes to their search algorithm and their search results, and they're placing a much higher emphasis on social relevance and whether or not your friends, the people that you've connected with, like a particular business or like a particular website. Those factors go into how well you rank in search engines. And again, we'll get into that in a little bit more detail in a few slides here. So as I mentioned when we kick things off, social media is really driving people's online behaviors and their purchasing habits. And these are some interesting statistics that were recently included on a site called Mashable. If you're not familiar with Mashable, it's a great site that has information on social media, search engine optimization, everything internet-based. And it's a great site to keep up to date and current with things. And this was just a very interesting graph that I found. When you think about Facebook, a lot of people think, people are just sharing what they had for breakfast, or what they're doing with their kids this weekend, or what milestone their child just reached. And it goes way beyond that, and there's real business implications with Facebook. And as you see here, 53% of Facebook users interact with a brand. Okay, so that's more than half. And to put that into perspective, Facebook has 800 million registered users. So over 400 million people are interacting with brands on Facebook. That is a huge audience. Okay, 40% of people have liked a product on Facebook. Right? But it goes even deeper than that. People aren't just liking a page. They're not just interacting with brands on Facebook. They're actively talking about specific products or services. Okay, people are doing research. 20% of people are using Facebook to research products or services at least once a week. That is a huge number, once a week. 42% wrote an online post about a product or brand, so people are out there talking about your company, okay, in huge numbers. And 33% have developed a product review online. Okay, so you want to make sure that you're aware of these conversations that are happening, both positive and negative. If it's a negative conversation that's happening, you want to make sure that you can address it appropriately, that you can respond, and that you can show people that you actually care. If it's a positive, you want to reach out and build that connection, build a stronger bond with that person who's writing that review. Turn them into a brand advocate for you. Okay, they've obviously, they're passionate. They've taken the time to write about your business or your product. Make sure that you use that to your advantage. Okay, let's dig even deeper here. When we look at social media, people are using social media to research travel. Okay, they're making decisions on where they're going to go out to dinner that night. They're making decisions on baby products. They're making decisions on the type of camera they buy or the type of television they purchase. Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn and Google Plus are having a big impact on whether or not somebody chooses your company, your product, or your brand. I mentioned 55% of consumers research electronics online. They're influenced by what other people are saying. So not just what the company's saying, they're influenced about what actual users are saying. People are looking at consumer beauty products online. I mentioned dining out already. People are looking at forums when they're choosing cars. Now, all of this sounds great, beauty products, going out to dinner, cars, travel. What does this really have to do with staffing and recruiting and hiring? And I'm here to tell you that they're doing all of these things. They're searching for restaurants, cosmetics. They're also doing a lot pertaining to your business. JobVite in 2011 did a survey, and what they looked at is they wanted to see how recruiting has changed over the years. And not surprisingly, they found that classifieds are dead. Okay, more people are moving online for their recruiting efforts. And not just job boards. More and more companies, more and more hiring managers and HR professionals are turning to social networks as a hiring tool. In fact, they found that 80% of people, and this was back in 2011, 80% of people were, at that time, using social networks to recruit. Okay, 9% planned to begin within the next year. I would guess that if they redid this survey right now, we'd be at that 90% threshold. So nearly every hiring manager out there is interested in social media. They're using social networks to recruit. As a staffing and recruiting partner, you need to be aware of that. You need to help them make sure that their social recruiting efforts are optimized and they're getting the best results. You can be a true partner to them and coach them through the process and let them know that, you can handle this for them. They don't have to waste their time recruiting social networks, looking at candidates online. You can handle all of this for them, but you need to show them that you have the expertise to really handle this and do great at it. As I was putting this presentation together, I was trying to find just an example of somebody that was searching for a job on Facebook. And just in my circle of connections on Facebook, a few hundred people, it didn't take long to find somebody that was actually looking for a job. In fact, I put this presentation together earlier in the week, and I had to look back a day or two to find somebody that was actually looking for a job. And this is an example. Somebody that's looking for an HR position. And what was really interesting here is that the person that commented on it actually referred a staffing firm to this particular person. So there is great potential here for each of you. Candidates are looking for jobs on social media. Companies are using social media to recruit. It's a great way, free publicity tool to get your job and your company in front of more and more people. So again, use it to your advantage. People are using it to their advantage, and if you're absent, if your company isn't present in the conversation, if you're not active, you're not going to show up in these types of conversations. All right. More and more companies are using social media to screen candidates. So not only find candidates, but actually they're mixing social media into the screening process. And this particular survey was done by a company called Repler. And they looked, again, at companies that use social media during their entire hiring process, and specifically in the screening process. They found that more than 9 out of 10 hiring managers are using social networking as some form of screening a candidate. And what was interesting, the biggest network that they were paying attention to was Facebook. 76% of them looked at Facebook when trying to evaluate a candidate. To me, what was even more surprising is they looked at Twitter even more than LinkedIn when they were trying to find out more about a candidate. So I think that many hiring managers feel that candidates are more candid on Facebook and Twitter, and I think it gives them the sense that they can get a better feel for who the person actually is. And this is some interesting data. That the same study dug a little bit deeper into what areas of the screening and interview process social media plays a role in. And as you can see, it actually plays a role in just about every part of the hiring process. So, 47% of hiring managers are looking at these social networks after receiving an application. 27% are looking at them after they had an initial conversation with people. 15% after they've had detailed conversations, and so on. What's really important here is for staffing and recruiting firms, if you want to do something like improve your interview to fill ratio, you can actually do this research ahead of time for the client. Wouldn't it be great, instead of just sending the client a resume or an overview of the candidate, to actually pull their social profile, point out key things about it, point out things that they may want to take notice of. It helps position you as somebody that cares a lot more about the type of people that you're placing, and it can go a far way into providing better candidates. Okay, you may find that a candidate's resume looks terrific, but as you dig deeper into their social profile, you realize right off the bat that they may not be a great fit for a company. Now, if you didn't do that research, you sent that resume over to the hiring manager, and they did that research on their own, how do you think they would do you think they would feel comfortable in working with you for future positions? They may, but they may not. Okay, so you need to do your due diligence ahead of time to make sure that the people you're providing are a good fit on paper and are a good fit socially, because if you're not doing the research, you can be assured that the hiring manager probably is, and you want to make sure that you address any issues ahead of time. And this, I think, is some great data. This looked at why somebody was actually rejected, why a hiring manager rejected candidates because of what they saw on their social media outlets. I think this, in particular, is a great slide to show to your candidates. So you can show them, you know what, people aren't getting jobs, and here's some of the reasons why. 7 out of 10 hiring managers didn't hire a candidate because of something they saw on their social media profiles. And I'm not going to go through this whole list, but as you can see, a lot of it is tied to posting unprofessional content or lying or discriminatory comments. So it's very important that you coach and you counsel your candidates on these issues so that when they arrive at your employer for the interview and the employer does their screening, none of these issues pop up. And I know it's we work with people here, so it's never going to be 100%. But at least if you arm your candidates with this information ahead of time, maybe they can go out and clean up their social media profiles. Maybe they'll think harder next time when they're posting something inappropriate and won't post it. All right, so we talked a little bit about buying and purchasing decisions, how social media plays a role in recruiting and screening. Now I want to take a closer look at how social relevance and social media is changing the way that people are actually finding your company. Okay, and this is a quote. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but this quote came from a gentleman by the name of Dwayne Forrester, and he heads up Bing's webmaster program. And what that program is in charge of is helping determine what search results show up on Bing's search engine. Okay, and this is a direct quote from Dwayne. And basically, what he's saying is, if you're not involved socially, you're really missing a great opportunity. Okay, people are talking about companies, they're talking about brands, and they're talking about products and services online. Okay. That's not only important for the people that are reading that information, but in the eyes of the search engine, that's really important to them. Okay? Search engines, their whole goal, their whole reason for existence is to provide people with the most relevant search results possible. Okay? Social relevance is a key element of that, and it's becoming a key, more and more of a factor they're looking at when they're determining what websites, what companies, and what brands should rank at the top of search results. So the more active you are on social media, the more actively people are talking about your company, sharing information that you write, writing reviews about your company, sharing positive comments, the more opportunity you'll have to rank higher in search results. Again, this particular quote was from a gentleman at Bing, but Google is also placing an extremely strong emphasis on social media and social sharing. And the launch of Google+, which I'm sure many of you have heard of, is big when it comes to search engine optimization and social media. While people aren't as prevalent on Google+ as they are on Facebook, as we'll see in a slide, in our next slide here, Google+ is playing a big role in how people are finding your company. So if you look here, two things that I want to point out. Google changed their algorithms so that they're placing a stronger emphasis on what people are sharing socially and who you're connected with. So if you log into a Google account and you conduct a search, you're going to get different results than other people. Google launched something called Search plus Your World. And essentially what this is they're showing search results, but they're also incorporating who you're connected with socially into those results. So if you look here, under the first result, I searched for staffing marketing. So I'm looking for somebody that can help my staffing firm market my services. You can see that people's profile pictures pop up. And the reason these are popping up is because these people have either liked Haley Marketing Group, have commented on Haley Marketing Group, have +1 Haley Marketing Group in Google+. So I'm seeing their faces. Okay, and right off the bat, if I look at these listings, the ones that really stand out are the people whose little profile pictures are showing there. Okay, this, from a user standpoint, this makes me feel a little bit better about Haley Marketing. If I knew nothing about Haley Marketing Group, I could maybe reach out to these people here. These are people that I'm already connected with. They're already in my social circle, and I know that they like Haley Marketing Group because they've either shared content or liked them online. So this gives me a stronger feeling about them, and I'm more likely to click on this search result because of that. And if I look further down, you'll also see that I have actually shared this content. All right, so this is telling me that, hey, sometime in the past you shared this content, and maybe it's content that I'm looking for again, and it's a great signal to me that at one point in time I liked something that this company produced, and I'm more likely to go back there because of it. Okay, here's another great result. When I was developing this presentation, I was looking for job search stats in social media. So I wanted to make sure I had the most up-to-date stats possible that were out there. I wanted to make sure there were no new reports that came out that I didn't see. And what was really interesting is the results that showed up. You're beginning to see something called Google Circles. And this is tied to Google+, Google's social network. And what Google is doing in search results, they're bringing in stats from Google+. So this first listing here by Anson Alexander, I can see that he is in over 2,200 Google+ circles. And what that means is that there are over 2,200 people out there that have said, you know what, I like what information Anson shares. I trust him, and I want to put him in one of my Google+ circles. So this is showing relevance. To me as a user, I'm more likely to click on a search result because more people have, quote-unquote, recommended Anson. So in looking at these results, I'm more likely to click on this result, and Anson is more likely to show up in Google results because of all the connections he has made and because of all the people that are sharing his good content. Okay, so social media isn't a luxury anymore. It's something that you need to be doing if you want to continue to show up in search results and if you want to continue to be involved in the conversation. All right, so hopefully at this point we've completed step one. We've talked about why social media is really important. We've talked about why it actually has a real impact on your business. We talked about, why social media really can't just be handed off to an intern. It really needs to be part of a more strategic conversation and strategic marketing initiative in your company. So step two, now that we know this, is figuring out what the heck we need to do. Okay, so a lot of people don't understand exactly what they should be doing on social media. They know they have to be doing it. They don't know why or how. So let's take a little closer look at what the heck you need to be doing. Okay, I want to introduce a concept called social sharing. And social sharing is really key to getting new sales, getting your name in front of new people, and recruiting better candidates. And you can almost think of social sharing as the new cold calling. In the heyday, staffing firms had call quotas, and they had call blitzes, and sales professionals would come in and pick up the phone and dial for dollars all day long. Okay, and it worked. And it's becoming less and less effective. And social sharing, I think, is the next phase of that. Social sharing lets you break down the barriers right off the bat. It makes those cold calls turn into warm calls. Okay? You're reaching out to those people socially. They don't feel any pressure, but you're getting your name in front of those people. Then when your sales team does pick up the phone, they're more likely to get through to the decision maker. Okay. With social sharing, just as the name implies, really it's just about sharing good ideas, sharing good information. And it can be done one of two ways: one-to-one personal sharing or one-to-many content sharing. When we were putting this presentation together and trying to get people to sign up, yesterday one of the things I did is reached out to a lot of people in my LinkedIn network, and I did it one-to-one. Okay, so I used social media, I used LinkedIn, but I sent one-to-one personal invitations to people, inviting them to attend. And hopefully many of you that are on this call got a personal invitation. One-to-many content sharing is a way for you to distribute content to your entire network. So we'll get into some examples of it, but posting content in LinkedIn groups is a great example of one-to-many content sharing. And we did the same thing with this presentation. We shared it, invitations with a number of different groups out there. Okay, so next we're going to look at several of the major social media outlets. We're going to look at Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. We're going to start with talking about quickly talking about a foundation, so how to build a good foundation, and then we're going to get more specific into exactly what you should be doing on each of these social media outlets. So we're going to start with Facebook. Facebook just recently released their timeline update, which many of you I'm sure have seen. And this is about 3 weeks ago. They switched every company page over to timeline. So a lot of company pages now still look unfinished, still look unprofessional. So step one in Facebook is making sure you have a strong foundation and making sure that your timeline graphic is interesting and up to date. And here are a few examples of staffing and recruiting firms that I feel have very nice timelines. Triumph Services here. They're addressing a few of their different audiences in the bubbles, and it's just interesting. It's an interesting graphic. John Palcisco is a recruiter, and what he's done is in his image shared the type of people that he recruits in places, and he's also branding himself. He is his company's brand, so his picture is front and center. It's very professional, and the overall look of this graphic is very neat, clean, and just looks very professional. Wood Personnel, they provide just good people, and they've mixed that right into their Facebook graphic. It's their tagline, so it's front and center. And they wanted to make sure that they shared a group of professionals or a group of photos of people that aren't necessarily clip art. These are people that they place. Okay? They're everyday people. And it gives a nice, warm feeling to Facebook fans when they come and see the page. And last, I wanted to point out, this was, I thought, just a creative Facebook graphic. So they've done, Allie here has done some nice things with the banner cover photo and her personal image in the left corner there. So it's just an interesting way, an interesting approach on a photo, so you can have some fun with this too. It doesn't have to be stark and professional. You can get creative. And there are hundreds of other examples of creative timelines, but I think it's just very important that you have a nice timeline that looks like you spent some time on it and doesn't look like you've just thrown it together or neglected it completely. Okay, so now that you have a nice foundation, you want to start sharing on Facebook. And I get the question from people all the time, well, what should I really be sharing on Facebook? And hopefully we're going to provide some answers to that. First and foremost, you're going to want to share some of your jobs. What I'm going to caution you against, though, is not to overdo it. On Facebook, I like probably about 100 different staffing and recruiting firms out there. Okay, one thing that I don't like is when somebody publishes job after job after job after job, and it fills up my Facebook profile. So when I log into Facebook, I want to see what's happening with my friends. I want to see if any companies I like are sharing good news, information. Periodically, I might be interested in a job. But when I come in and I see that my entire timeline here is filled with jobs from the same company, it's kind of a turnoff. Okay, so I'm not saying don't share jobs. I'm just saying don't share hundreds of jobs. Okay, share maybe one a day and limit it to that, 1 or 2 a day. Okay, I thought this was a great example of a staffing firm that shared a great post. What they've done here is it was a temp to perm position. One of their employees got hired on with their client permanently. So they've sent a congratulatory message to this person. It mixes in the person's name. It mixes in the client that they placed it with. It helps show other candidates that they have an opportunity to get a great career opportunity with a outstanding company. And they've done a quote-unquote soft sell here at the end, pointing people back to their job board so that people can search for more open positions like this. So I think they've done a great job here. It's not salesy, but at the same time it leads people down a path to take some action. And I'm sure that Susanna here appreciated it and probably shared this with a lot of her friends, and it gets this company's name in front of all of her connections as well. Okay. Another thing that you should look at sharing are news and updates about your company. This particular organization does a great job in creating a quarterly salary survey. Okay, so they survey local employers. They use this information on their social networks. They use it on their blog. And it also gets picked up by many local news publications. So when that happens, when you do get some local press, you want to make sure that you get that in front of as many people as possible. So one way to do that is to share this particular article on your social media outlets. Okay, so they've taken a screenshot of the particular article, they've included the title, and they're linking back to the full article so somebody can click on it and head over to the news publication to read it. Another thing that you should do is share helpful tips and best practices. If you have a company blog, share that information on your Facebook page, share it on Twitter, share it on LinkedIn. Get that information in front of as many people as possible. Helps position your company, and it helps show that you care and that you add value. Okay, so this company shares articles on staffing best practices, on career search tips, on hiring and management, on running a more effective department. So they're not selling their services, but they're positioning themselves as an expert in workforce and career development. Don't forget to have fun. I think the best posts on Facebook are the ones that are a little bit fun, that aren't 100% professional, that maybe have nothing to do with the company or the product or the service at all. And I think this is a good example. We just recently, last week, had National Pajama Day. I didn't even know that existed, but this company did, and they put this up on Facebook. They included just a fun photo, and they've gotten some response from it. It's a good way to show that your company has personality, and it's a good way to engage people. The fun stuff oftentimes gets the most response and the most likes. When we get back to social relevance, again, part of your social relevance score depends on how many people are liking your content, are commenting on your content, are sharing it. So make sure you mix in this fun stuff periodically. Tell a story with pictures. I read an study recently that said that posts with pictures on Facebook receive 50% more attention than posts that don't have pictures or photos. So in this example, the company's sharing just a real quick career tip, but they've tied a really interesting picture to it. Okay, so it draws people's eye in. They spend some time reading the text, and then as you can see here, this post had just gone up when I grabbed the screenshot, and 4 people had already liked it. So people are interacting with it. People appreciate this kind of information. So when you find a good quote or a good snippet, try to look for a good picture to go along with it. And inspirational quotes can be some great content. And building on the picture, the picture of this adds so much to this post. If you just had the inspirational quote, it would still be good. Okay, but adding this picture, this just great picture of Teddy Roosevelt added a lot of interest to the post, and I think it led to more than 20 people commenting and liking this picture. So again, pictures go a long way. Okay, let's kind of wrap up Facebook. Some keys to sharing on Facebook. You want to appeal to your audience. And your audience on Facebook is most likely candidates, more so than clients. So do a little bit of research on your audience. See who has liked your page. Take some time and look those people up. See what they're interested in. Try to figure out if there's some demographic that you can speak to, and create your content around that demographic. So appeal to them. Share information that's relevant and useful for them. Mix up different types of content. So it can be business related. It can be news related. Periodically post jobs. You can do some soft selling once in a while. But mix up different types of content and have a little fun. Don't post too many jobs, and also don't push it, not just with jobs, but in posts in general. Okay, you don't want to inundate people with information they don't necessarily care about. So what I suggest doing is starting off with maybe 3 to 5 updates per week. Okay, see what the response rate to that is. See how people are interacting, and then adjust your frequency from there. And don't sell. Okay, you can do soft sells, like in that example of Advance that I mentioned, where they're promoting or they're mentioning a candidate and congratulating a candidate that got a position, and then they're leading people to their job board. Okay, that's a great way to sell without selling. And last but not least, have some fun. The fun stuff is what gets the most feedback. So let's move on to Twitter. And we're going to talk about, just like with Facebook, we'll talk about your foundation really quick. First and foremost, pick a good handle. So if it's going to be a personal Facebook page, or I'm sorry, personal Twitter account, use your name. If it's going to be a company account, you can use your company name. You can look at jobs in a specific market if that handle is available. You can look at recruiting in a specific industry if that handle is available, but do a little bit of research. Think about what types of keywords or topics people might be searching on, and build your handle around that. And then write a strong description with keywords. Okay? In the example of Bayside Solutions here, you'll see that they have mixed in the word staffing, employment firm, and the geographic regions they service. So San Francisco, Sacramento, Central Valley. Make sure to mix those things in. So if somebody is looking for a staffing or employment firm in a specific area, they have a better chance of finding you. Okay, once you have a good foundation on Twitter, start sharing. So what should you share? You can start with interesting stats or quotes that you've read. Okay, here's an example. I'm thinking about my audience. Okay, I'm connected on Twitter. A lot of staffing firms follow me, so I'm writing about things and sharing content and sharing statistics that are relevant to their business. Okay, things that they could even use in their own sales efforts. Okay, you can retweet interesting items. One of the best things I suggest doing when you first start out with Twitter is looking at influencers in the industry, looking at trade journals, looking at associations. Begin following those people. I follow staffing industry analysts. I follow ASA, American Staffing Association. They're continually sharing great information that's relevant to my target audience, so it's extremely relevant to me. So I'm following them. I'm looking at their content, and periodically I'm retweeting their content because I think that the people that follow me would find it interesting. And maybe they didn't see it from staffing industry analysts or ASA, so I want to make sure that I get that information in front of them. It also shows them that I care about their business and I care about their industry. So it shows them that I stay up to date on the industry, I know what's happening in the industry, and I care. Okay, it goes a long way into positioning yourself as an expert in your field. Okay, so follow people in your industry. You can even follow executives of companies that you want to do business with. Okay. One of the benefits of retweeting other people is that you'll find you'll build a reciprocal retweeting relationship. So as you begin to follow people, as you begin to retweet them, those people are notified. They know that you're retweeting their information. They know that you're helping them get their name in front of other people. They'll begin to do the same for you. It's a great way to get your name in front of an entirely new audience. So some people that you may want to begin following and begin retweeting are influencers. Think about the people that influence HR hiring managers. Maybe it's the executive leadership team at a specific company. Even if the executive isn't your target audience and you're going after procurement or some other department, okay, you can follow executives and they can be a great influencer and a great referral source for you. You can look at other vendors and other partners that sell to those same types of companies. If you begin retweeting their information, they might begin retweeting yours and get you in front of an entirely new group of prospects. So it's a great tool to build your name and brand recognition online. You can tweet great articles that you've read. Just about every website, news outlet out there now includes these easy share icons. So when you're reading something that is insightful, that has some great tips, share it. It's very easy to do. You can reach out to prospects and influencers, and I'll share a quick story that happened to me personally. At the Staffing Executive Forum, Chris Brogan, who is a New York Times best-selling author and is a strategic social media consultant for many of the Fortune 500 companies and some of the top companies in the world, he was speaking at the event. So leading up to the event, I, through Twitter, reached out to him a few times, and I had the chance to meet him face-to-face at the forum. And during his presentation, he mentioned me by name. He said, you know, if you really want to find out how to use social media in the staffing industry, go talk to Brad. That would have never happened without Twitter. Okay, we reached out to him, we connected. People that we're both connected with saw that. Okay, so it helped me meet this person face to face. It helped get a strong endorsement, and several people came up to me after the presentation and wanted to talk. So think about people in your industry that could do the same thing for you. Okay? If you get them on your side, if people see that you're connected with these thought leaders, they may begin retweeting your information. It adds credibility. Okay? It turns that cold call into a warm call. Helps you get your foot in the door and have something to talk about. Okay, so to wrap things up on Twitter, some keys to sharing. Keep it short but catchy. You really don't have an alternative. With Twitter, you have 160 characters to work with, so use them to your best ability. Unlike Facebook, I think on Twitter you can tweet a lot of jobs, so don't feel shy there. Get your jobs out, and you can push several a day. And that leads into the next point. Push your jobs out. Push good content. Push articles out several times a day. Don't sell all the time, so don't only push your content out. Push out and retweet other people's content. Have some fun. Again, the fun stuff gets feedback. You can get a little personal. So if you're a big sports fan and want to share some tweets about your hometown team, go for it. And then reach out to others and retweet. Again, you can send direct messages to people. You can reference people using the @ symbol and then their handle. And it's a great way to build a relationship online, and then leads into building a relationship offline. Okay, so let's transition over to LinkedIn now and your foundation on LinkedIn. With LinkedIn, you want to make sure that your profile is 100% complete. Okay, if it's not 100% complete, fix it. Figure out why not. Number 2, your profile is indexed by Google, so make sure that you use keywords in Google. Number 3, update your status frequently. Everybody that you're connected with sees your status updates, so make sure that you're updating frequently. Shoot for 3 to 5 times a week. Number 4, make sure that you have more than 500 connections. If you don't, you're probably not trying hard enough. You talk with hundreds of people. Make sure that each time you talk with a person, you come back to your office and you send them a LinkedIn invitation. Use the People You May Know tab in LinkedIn and send invitations. Connect with group members. And number 5, integrate everything you do online. Make sure that your website is listed, your blog's listed. Make sure that you've connected your Twitter account. Do all of those things so that people can access you and follow you in different places. Okay. I think groups are probably one of the most effective tools that you can use in your social media arsenal. So look for and search out groups that your target audience may be members of. And I did a quick search here for IT programmers in Chicago. It brought up a few different groups. And what was interesting here is that first one on the list is actually a recruiting and staffing firm. So they've gone and they've created their own group. Now, they have control over this group. They now have over 1,200 members of this group, many of who are engineers and programmers and machinists. Okay, so their target audience. They own the discussion here. This is a great candidate pool for them. You can do the same thing for your company. Okay, but just make sure that you're not only sharing information about your company, make sure that you're sharing good information for them. Update your personal status and consider connecting it to Twitter. I have my Twitter account connected to my LinkedIn account, so anytime I make a tweet, it automatically updates my LinkedIn status. It's just a time saver, and I make sure that what I'm tweeting, I wouldn't mind getting redistributed on LinkedIn. So it's a great tool to make sure that you'll kind of work smart in social media and don't have to spend a ton of time. The importance, again, of updating your status frequently is that everyone you're connected with will see that status update. Also, statuses are searchable. So people can come to LinkedIn and search for keywords in a status update. So make sure you include keywords and good information in those updates. Okay, within groups, you can do a lot of things. You can share blog posts, you can share articles, you can start discussions, you can create interesting polls. In this example here, this person was asking, when starting a new staffing company, who is the most important hire? Okay, and there's some great discussions happening. Okay, people are commenting. Once people begin commenting on one of your posts, you can reach out to them. You can create a conversation through LinkedIn. You can create a conversation offline. So it's a great way to, again, turn that cold call into a very warm call. Okay, I get the question a lot, how can I use LinkedIn to recruit? Well, one interesting way is actively pushing your jobs out. And you want to be careful here. You don't want to, again, appear like you're being salesy or pushy. So you don't want to just place your jobs everywhere. Within groups, there is a jobs tab. Okay, that jobs tab by default will pull in paid job listings so people can post their jobs on LinkedIn for a fee. But then in the left-hand column, there's also something called job discussions. Okay. You can use job discussions to post your jobs for free, as these two examples here. They're posting positions. They're letting people know they're looking for somebody, and they're providing a link probably back to their internal job board. Okay, it's a great way to get your positions in front of your exact target audience and get more people involved in helping you recruit and helping you fill that position. The other nice thing is that it doesn't only appear here. So people don't have to specifically come to the group, click on the jobs tab, and see that job discussion. Many groups have something called a digest email that gets sent out. Okay, you probably, if you're a member of a group, you've probably seen these emails before. They include a breakdown of discussions that are happening in the group, and then a listing of different jobs in job discussions. So it's almost like free email marketing. Okay, you can get your job into those email alerts and get it in front of your exact target audience with no hard costs. Okay, so to wrap things up on LinkedIn, here are some keys. Update your status frequently. Share interesting information, and information that is not just focused on your company, but things that you find, things that other people have posted, great articles, great stats. Share good stuff that show that you're a continual learner, that you're interested in your clients, and that you're interested in your craft. Join groups and listen. I think, again, groups are one of the best tools you have in your social media arsenal. So look at groups, find out where your target audience is hanging out, join those groups, and start listening and start sharing. Share good, helpful content, and position yourself as an expert. Similar to Facebook, LinkedIn's new interface allows you to like and comment on other people's discussions. And the more you comment and like other people's discussions, the more those people will return the favor. Okay, so get out there, be active, comment on things, and try to add value. And last but not least, answer questions. There's a question and answer section of LinkedIn, and this is a great place to go and search for people that are faced with specific hiring challenges or have unique workforce questions. When you answer those questions, it not only helps that person that asked the question, but everybody else that sees that question sees you as a thought leader in that space, so it's far-reaching. I have people commenting on questions that I've answered maybe 6 to 8 months ago, so there's a long shelf life there, so it definitely adds value. All right, we talked about the major three. We talked about Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. It's very important that you don't forget about the others. specifically Google+. I mentioned Google changed their search algorithm, and they're placing a much stronger focus on social circles and social relevance. So it's important that you do have a presence on Google+. And what I would suggest doing is a lot of the same things that you're doing on Facebook, repeat on Google+. So share that content. You're already developing it. You're already doing the research. Just leverage it on Google+ as well. And begin following people, begin adding people to your circles on Google+, so that when somebody is logged into Google and they do a search for a specific topic, maybe they're searching for an employment agency, maybe they're searching for an HR partner, you have a better opportunity to rank higher in search results. Pinterest is probably the biggest, hottest, newest entry into the social space. It's a great, interesting site, and people are still feeling it out, but it is the fastest growing website in the history of the internet. So a lot of people are going there. A lot of people are using it and finding value in it. I encourage you to go to our Pinterest page, and I've included the link here, just to see what it's all about. Take a look at some of the things that you could be sharing. Maybe you could share pictures of how you should dress for an interview, or unique resume formats, or things like that that add some value. Don't forget sites like YouTube and Flickr. Video is rapidly growing. People consume a lot of video. YouTube is seen as the second biggest search engine in the world, so there's a lot of value to videos. And they don't have to be professionally done. Okay, you can use a flip cam. You can use a digital camcorder in your office. You can use your webcam to produce video, and that maybe isn't 100% professional, but it adds some value. Flickr, if you take office pictures, if you're in a charity event or something like that, take pictures, put them up on Flickr. And then I've included another image here. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of other social networks that you could become involved in. Okay, there may be some specific networks within your industry sector. You need to do a little bit of research, seek these out, and see if it makes sense for you to become a member and become active there. The nice thing about social media is that you can track all the results. Okay, so if one of your goals is driving traffic back to your website and getting conversions, getting people to actively look at jobs on your site and apply, you can track all of these things with analytics. So you know that your time spent on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Google+, you know what impact it's having on your business, so use those analytics. That's kind of a nice segue into this next slide here. One thing that we did as a company is kind of as a New Year's resolution, we said, we know that we need to be doing this stuff, so we need to start doing it. So in January, we had an initiative where several people in the company were pressed to become much more active on social media and social sharing. You can kind of see the results here. This shows website traffic back to our corporate site as a result of all of our social media sharing efforts. So the increase was tremendous. We're getting a ton more traffic now from social media sites, and it's just us sharing the content that we had already developed. So there's a lot of value in doing this. Okay, so with that said, I'd like to kind of wrap it up. We have about 5 or 6 minutes here for questions. David, were there any questions that came in throughout the presentation that you'd like us to cover?
Yeah, Brad, there were a few different questions that popped up, and the first of which is you were talking earlier about investigating candidates and taking a look at their social media profiles, and if you want to check somebody out on Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter, what do you recommend doing? What's the best or the easiest way to check out somebody's profiles?
Good question. The first thing I would do is just Google their name and their location and see what pops up. Oftentimes, the first few things that will pop up is their LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter profiles. It's a great place to start. If they have a common name, say like Brad Smith, it's going to be much more difficult to find them. So you'll need to go into each of those social media sites and look for them specifically.
Okay, great. Next question. We had a couple people ask, there's so much information that you talked about here in terms of all the different things you can do in social media, but if you're just getting started, where should you start?
Well, I think the top three that I mentioned, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Specifically, I think LinkedIn and Facebook will probably provide the most value to somebody just starting. So create your accounts, create a good foundation. Don't forget good professional, high-quality images, and start listening and start sharing. You don't have to create all of the content. You can share a lot of content you find, but you do want a strategy for developing your own good content, so you're driving traffic back to your website and back to your information instead of somebody else's. So start with building a foundation, start with sharing, and then think about your goal. What's your end goal? Your end goal is to get more applications, to get more sales leads. So think about how you can funnel your social media sites back to your website where people can take action.
Yeah, and I'll build on that. If you're not doing anything right now in the social media world, one of the things you're going to need is a regular source of content. So one solution, as Brad said, is to get there, build your profiles, find content other people are writing to share. So you can use, like I love to go into LinkedIn Today, which includes articles that are all relevant based on my interests, and your LinkedIn Today will be the same for you, and I'll find articles there to share. The other side is to produce your own content, and if you're just getting started and you're not already blogging, I would strongly suggest looking at adding a blog to your website for the benefits of social sharing as well as the benefits of search engine optimization. All right, Brad, next question must be kind of a technical one. Does Google index results from the big social networks or just Google+?
It's a great question, and it's a big debate right now. Google did have a partnership with Twitter and Facebook that ended, and the Google founders are really scared about where that's going. So right now, Google is not indexing individual tweets or Facebook updates. Okay, they can see Facebook profiles and the information in tweets and things like that, but individual status updates currently are not indexable through Google. And I think part of the reason Google launched Google Plus and changed their entire privacy policy so that all of their properties like YouTube and Google Plus are all under one privacy policy is because they're afraid of Facebook's control over content and what people are sharing socially. So that was a long answer to the question, but as of right now, Google cannot see Facebook status updates.
Yeah, and until they decide who's going to win that war, we don't really anticipate either company being very friendly to the other. The next question, interesting one. If you have offices across multiple states, would it be beneficial to have a Facebook page for each office, or better to maintain one for the company?
It depends on your company. A lot of clients we work with that are in that situation don't want individual offices or locations having to maintain their own page, so there's one corporate page. I kind of err on that side. I think it makes a lot of sense to have one corporate page, but then allow each individual location access to add their own content to that corporate page. For example, within Facebook, you could even create unique pages or tabs, custom tabs within Facebook so that each location could have their own tab within your corporate Facebook account. But if you create individual accounts for each office or each location, it kind of becomes an administrative nightmare.
Yeah, I would say one exception is Brad is a client that we work with where their different offices had very different services, and they wanted to focus on different industry segments with each of their different Facebook pages. But in general, you're dead on. Make the administrative function manageable, and you'll keep doing the content sharing. As soon as the administration gets really difficult, you'll end up abandoning it. All right, we got a couple minutes left. We're just at 3 o'clock, but I want a couple good questions come in. If you have a LinkedIn account and hundreds of connections based on the niche you staff for, and then you switch to a new industry, what do you do with all those old contacts? Is there an easy way to clear them? Should you start a new account or just keep building on your base?
Keep building on your base. Don't get rid of those connections. Okay, those people may move to other industries themselves. They may know people in other industries, so don't lose those connections. They can be extremely valuable down the road.
Okay. And somebody's asked for a couple of examples of maybe some firms they could check out online who've been successful using social media in recruiting. Any what you'd recommend?
Well, look at some of the big players. Kelly, Manpower, Adecco. Look at some of the things they're doing, and then I would also look at the association's list of top firms. So that's a great starting point. The fastest growing companies out there. There's a lot of the fastest growing staffing companies believe in marketing, believe in sales, believe in building their business. So a lot of them have outstanding social media presences. So that's where I would start, looking at the list of the fastest growing staffing firms, and you'll find that many of them have nice social media profiles. Blatant, I guess, sales pitch here. I would also look at the Haley Marketing Group blog post. Whenever we finish a new project, we're getting now in the habit of pushing that out through our blog, and it's also getting fed to our Facebook page. So like us on Facebook, take a look at our blog, and you'll see some great examples and get some great ideas there.
Okay, thanks, Brad. And we've still a few more questions come in, but we're at 3 o'clock. I'm going to we'll stay on the line to continue to answer them. Brad, if you wouldn't mind advancing to the next lunch with Haley slide, we'll just let everybody know because I know people are going to have to run. But next month, we have a very special presentation from Tom Kosnick of Vices Group, and he's going to be talking about the valuation of a staffing firm and how to figure out what your firm is worth, and if you're thinking about selling now or 10 years from now, how to increase that valuation. So if you're interested, grab a seat at lunchwithhaley.com. Formally, this will be the end of today's webinar, but because we do have questions continuing to come on, Brad, if you don't mind, we'll stay on the line a few minutes and continue to answer them.
Sure.
Okay. Then the next question that came up is somebody says, I embed both my Twitter feed and my Blogger feed into the homepage of my website. Is it wise or smarter to make people go to the separate sites?
No, I kind of like having it there. I think it's easy for people to get back and forth to your different outlets, and it also adds a certain level of sophistication. So a lot of staffing companies out there don't have Twitter feeds or don't have blog feeds, and their pages are static. So I think there's a certain perceived level of sophistication there. So I like it.
Great. And the other thing that I'll add to that is we see a lot of people who really emphasize their social links on their website. But think about that for a second. The goal of your social media sites is to get people to engage you and then come to your website. So you really want to kind of minimize driving people from your website away. Once you're at the website, the goal is to convert them, to apply for a job, to request an employee. So I would minimize how much you're driving people to other sites, and even including your social sites from your website. All right, Brad, the next question. If we have a large Spanish-speaking client, would you recommend having a separate Spanish Facebook page?
I've never gotten that question before. It may make a little sense, or you could just provide some of your updates in Spanish.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen anybody who has two. If you had a large population that all the conversation was going to be in Spanish, it may make sense to have two. I know we work with a client in Montreal where everything had to be in French first, and I believe they have to keep separate sites because they can't have Facebook translating on the fly, and a lot of their people speak one language or the other.
Yeah, Dave, the other thing that you could do too is on Facebook create a custom tab and at least acknowledge the Spanish on that page.
Okay, great. And that's the end of the questions we've received, so I want to thank everybody for hanging out with us, and as we continue to answer, Brad, thank you very much. Fantastic information. I do this for a living, and I love listening to you because I always pick up some new things. So really enjoyed today's presentation on social media, and I hope we'll see everybody in a few weeks for Tom's presentation on valuing your staffing firm. Take care.